Welcome in, Cowboys Nation, to Game Day Live, the post-game show presented by Callahan Motor Company. Let me get this out the way right now. Callahan Motor Company, ladies and gentlemen, is the finest, most quality-oriented pre-owned dealership in the DFW area. As a family-owned and operated business, they have served the public since 2009. From sales to trade-ins to finance, you can count on Callahan Motor Company. So hit them up in Keller, Texas, or visit CallahanMotorCompany.com. The Dallas Cowboys lose a heartbreaker, 31-28 in overtime. I'm really frustrated as hell right now, but I got to come on here and be as composed as possible. But you want to talk about bungling an opportunity to win the game there at the end was definitely a situation that happened there. And I'll save my frustrations for the DPI for another time because I got to not be a hypocrite. I never expect to get those ones, but that one did piss me off. I just wanted to throw that out there. But Dallas loses 31-28, and the bad man does it again to the Cowboys, Jesse. Does it again.
I mean, you F around and you find out. And this is the part of the game, and you and I both agree, should have been a PI call. Should have been a PI call. But I know I've said this all week long leading into this game. We shouldn't have been in overtime with this team.
No, you shouldn't have.
You shouldn't have been in overtime with this team. But time and time again, you set yourself up and you cost yourself, of course, the two early turnovers. And then you knew that Aaron Rodgers was not going to go out quietly. You knew that. And you were up 14 points, 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And you could not seal the deal. That's the frustrating part, and that's why when I always talk about this football team, to hell with the regular season for me.
Yeah.
This is the type of game, a playoff-type game, that you have to be able to salt away. When you're up 14 points in the third quarter, you have to be able to salt the game away. You cannot allow a team that is wounded like the Packers. It's a 3-6 football team. And everybody all week long told me how booties used this football team was and how washed Aaron Rodgers was and how we were going to come in here and stomp these jokers out. And you could not close out a game against a playoff caliber quarterback. And there was no reason you shouldn't. There was no reason that you should not have been able to go out there and seal the deal of this football game. And that's what worries me when it comes to playoff football. Tonight was a playoff football atmosphere.
Yeah.
And you're up 14 points through the third quarter. At least half of the third quarter.
Well, you were up it was 28-14 going into the fourth quarter.
Going to the fourth quarter.
You had 4th and 9. You make that stop, in all intents and purposes, that game is probably over at that point because you get the ball back at pretty good field position and you can salt away, go get some more points, whatever. But 4th and 9, and they gave up another 40-plus yard touchdown to Christian Watson, who had a breakout game.
You said it to me, and I said I'm going to steal that. I'm going to tweet this out now. First it was Aaron Jones. Now you have Christian Watson.
Yep.
In 6 games, he had 88 total yards. He surpassed that today. Another 3 touchdowns. Another game where a guy comes in who's a nobody. Who's a nobody. He is up to this point. He has been boo-boo juice, and he came in today and he got career highs on you and helped his football team win a game. But this is, and we'll have enough time on your shows all week, on my shows all week, to debate the defensive pass interference call. But there were multiple opportunities, and we said this for years when it comes to the Cowboys. If you put the game in the officials' hands, 9.99999% of the time, you're going to come up with a losing end of it. Don't put it there. Close this game out. Don't let them convert a 4th and 9. Go up 14 points and salt the freaking game away. This is the frustrating thing about this football team is when you look at it and you're saying, you're not supposed to lose to a 3-6 Green Bay team. But I know I said it. If you give the boogeyman an opportunity, it's your worst nightmare to give him the ball in a situation. He 29 today made 29 career comebacks in fourth quarter and overtime.
It seemed like it's more than that, but
29. That's a lot.
I mean, Dak got 16 in his first 3 years, so I figured Aaron Rodgers over a 15-year career or 20, whatever it's been,
Yeah.
he had more than that.
But just, you know, I don't know, man. I'm frustrated because this was a game that was extremely winnable, but I had that level of hesitation all week long because I knew that Aaron Rodgers was going to come up and I mean, you can't even say he snapped because he had 225 yards, 3 touchdowns, but they ran the ball for 207 yards.
Back-to-back 200-yard rushing performances on you, man.
Yeah.
And in the DFW Turf tough matchup was actually Aaron Rodgers versus Micah Parsons. And
who?
Clearly, this is a dub once again to the quarterback and Aaron Rodgers, who you just went on that soliloquy of what he did to you. It was an efficient day. They stuck to the ground, 39 rushes, 207 yards to the Cowboys, 31 rushes. So they ran the ball well, which, if I may come off the turf tough matchup for a quick second and get to the end of the game where I thought it was mismanaged.
Yep.
3rd and 4, DPI regardless. I want them to ask Mike McCarthy, what happened? What was going on the 4th down? Did you guys go into this 3rd down knowing we're going for it on 4th down if we don't get it? Or was this like, hey, let's get on the ball, they're not ready, and go? Because I came in here screaming at you, well, call a timeout. Right. If you're going to go for it on 4th down, get your best 4th down play and call a timeout. So I just felt like there was moments within this game, and specifically at the end of this game, where it was mismanaged because they were moving the ball well, just matriculating down the field. And if the thought process was let's get points in general, then you could have technically just ran the ball there, try to get 3 yards. You were running the ball well in that series. Run it, try to get the 1st down. If you don't get it, now it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. Okay, we'll go for it. Or you can try my Hurts kick the field goal, who he's preparing to do. But just frustrating end to that game. But clearly the Cowboys did not win the Turf Tough matchup today, which was brought to you by DFW Turf, the #1 artificial turf in the DFW area. Spending hours every week mowing your lawn and spending thousands of dollars every year on lawn maintenance is not the way to go. Just have a yard that dies during the summer and gets muddy when it rains. But if I told you could save all that time and money, all while having a yard that looks green as clean as a Cowboys turf to play on, you can. And it's with DFW Turf. Thanks to DFW Turf Solutions, your perfect lawn is a call away. So hit them up at 940-365-9165 or contact them at dfwturf.com. I mean, that's a clear dub for Aaron Rodgers in this one. We didn't see Micah Parsons get a sack or anything of that nature today, Jesse.
Nope, not at all. And primarily because he played a lot of linebacker, right? When you go back, we'll go back and watch it, but it looked as if outside of 3rd down or necessary passing downs, he lined up a lot at linebacker, which we thought might have, when we talked about earlier in the game, you said, whoa, no Carlos Watkins and Jabril Cox are both inactive this week, so what are we going to do? And I said to you, Micah Parsons is linebacker. And he's like, oh, you know what? I forgot all about that. He played linebacker, and they thought that maybe that would have been an issue. That may have been a situation where you put him at linebacker and he helps. Well, it didn't help. It didn't help. They gave up 207 rushing yards, 5.3 yards a carry, and both teams
ran the ball effectively.
But the thing is that for the Cowboys, you're supposed to run the ball effectively against essentially one of the worst run defenses in the National Football League.
On the flip side, we also are in the bottom 20.
And this is the thing that we all been harking about when it comes to the Cowboys is when are we going to – and we thought maybe Hankins was going to fix that, and I'm still willing to give that a little bit more time to develop.
Sure.
But listen up, man. Like –
this is the Achilles heel of the defense.
And the league knows it.
Yeah.
I can promise you, Dalvin Cook and company, they're going to try it again. They're going to try to run the football. You still got Tennessee that we got to deal with later on in the year. And as you continue to try to catch the Eagles, which I think football is a funny game and anything can happen any given week. But if we're just going off strictly, you probably won't catch the Eagles. You probably won't catch the Eagles.
Essentially 4 games back right now.
Right. So you winning the NFC East and getting that number 1 seed in the NFC East and getting that number 1 seed is kind of almost, you kind of flushed it out on a lot of bit today.
Today.
But and you still have some other games into the season where you're going to have to be stout and being able to stop the running of the football. And, you know, this is the frustrating part about watching this team, because
once you get into the playoffs, 9 times out of 10, the way the playoffs are going, you're going to go up against a team that's going to run the ball. Whether it be the Niners, whether it be Philly. I don't know if the Giants and the Cowboys both get in and you have to face each other again.
Seattle.
Now, Tampa is a different story because Tampa doesn't run the ball well at all, but you could technically end up matching up with them. But there's going to be more running teams,
but guess what?
in the playoffs than not.
They got a boogeyman, too, that we have never beat.
They do.
He's never lost to us at any point in time in his career.
Yep.
And so, you know, that's another thing. And I keep telling people, and also essentially, you could have closed the door on the Packers being a playoff football team, but you've now cracked it open a little bit for them. You've given them an opportunity to go on a run and, you know, possibly run off 5 or 6 straight and find themselves maybe fighting for a position later on down the line, being second in their division. I don't think Minnesota's going to fumble the bag that much the rest of the way out.
They're way behind in that division.
You know, but again, this is a situation where you don't want to I want to eliminate all the people that we don't want to have to play with anymore in the playoffs. But, you know, another big football game, and as my guy Nate always talks about, you know, can the Cowboys beat a quarterback in a team with equal to or greater value and talent?
Yeah.
And at times we've seen in meaningful games to come up short. And no, I'm not saying that they haven't never won any, but when you look at it, especially in the playoffs, especially in certain games like this is a football game that the Cowboys are a better football team, period. And I know Aaron Rodgers, I get it. The Cowboys, on paper, in offense, defense, and special teams, they are a much more complete and better football team. So these are the games that, if you want to find yourself in that conversation of being an elite football team or a real contender in the Super Bowl, these are the games that you're going to go, oh, okay, cool, I know that's Aaron Rodgers, but we're a better football team and we're going to beat them. And you didn't, and you had more than one opportunity to do so, and that's the frustrating part.
Not penalties snuck back up on the Cowboys here. 9 penalties for 83 yards and almost real costly on that final drive their final drive in overtime with the holding after a first down. And look, it could have been costly. We don't know. Domino effect that happens, the butterfly effect. If you don't get the penalty, you just get the first down. Maybe you continue to run the ball. Maybe things are a bit different. Instead, it's 2nd and 19 or something of the sort. And yeah, they eventually picked it up, but that did halt the momentum for a second, man. But I think this game ultimately came down to that final drive for the Cowboys, and they had a chance to win it there.
Yeah.
And I just think they fumbled the bag, per se. They fumbled the game, and I really, really am interested to hear what was going on at the final moments of that game, because you cannot give that man an opportunity twice. You gave him an opportunity in the fourth quarter, and he cussed out his head coach and saying, yo, what are we doing?
Right. He looked at this coach and says, what are we doing? We should run the SHIT out of the football.
Yeah.
On that last play, he goes, what do you call him? We should run the football. And they didn't, and you gave you listen, man, I've had the pleasure and been blessed to play in this league. I've had the honor and pleasure to be able to cover this league. There are certain folks you don't give 2 opportunities to.
Yeah.
He is at the top of that list. You don't give him a second chance to beat you. You don't. You don't give certain human beings with that ability second.
Not 2, 3, 4.
You don't give guys like Aaron Rodgers 2 opportunities to beat you. You gonna mess around and you gonna find out. And he's one that wears number 12. We saw earlier this week Tom Brady go down the field, throw a touchdown that should have been caught, was dropped. And what did they do? They gave him the ball again to win. And what did he do? He walked down the field and he beat you. There's just certain dudes, certain guys, you just don't give an opportunity. And you said it in the pregame show. It's like the movie. When you shoot him and he falls out the window, and then you go down, look out the window, and he's gone.
There, yeah.
You dead, homie.
28-14.
You dead, homie.
Yeah.
When you got to put him out of his misery right now. Because if you don't, if he has any air left in his lungs, you dead.
Here's why this game, again, I called it, we said it on Cowboys 4th and Long podcast. So this stretch is the most important stretch for the remainder of the season, And this game, throughout the records, don't care what the records are, it's important to win this game, not only because you can bury Aaron Rodgers. Now, you've lost an overtime game in a heartbreaking fashion, by the way. I mean, that game is going to linger for a few days, I'm pretty sure, at the Star here. Now you have to go on the road to Minnesota, who just won a big-time game against a big-time, he hasn't won a Super Bowl, whatever, but big-time quarterback on the road.
Yep.
And they come back home. It's an 8-1 team. Ladies and gentlemen, the pressure is on more than it's ever been in this season. You lose that game.
In addition to, this is the stretch where the Cowboys played 3 games in 12 days.
Yep. And the Giants won earlier today, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I think they beat Houston.
The Giants are 7-3. 7-3?
7-2.
7-2?
They only lost 2 games, right?
Oh, my goodness. Giants are now above you in that division. You had to get this one, man. You absolutely had to get this one, and the Cowboys did
Giants
not.
Giants are 7-2.
7-2. Boy, oh, boy.
Giants are 7-2.
Boy, this was the one to kick off kind of a run. It could have been now. I'm hoping it doesn't have the opposite effect of kicking off
a losing run,
a situation that we saw last year where you started to kind of stumble out the gates after I believe it was after the bye.
Yeah,
it was after the bye. So Cowboys were 6-2 at that point. They were 6-2 at this point, and they played at home and lost. This time they play on the road and they lose. I just hope they can regroup and get back, because next week now is your this week was the biggest game. Now next week's your biggest game of the season against a team that is on a roll.
And maybe this is Jesse Holley nitpicking, and you can say whatever it is that you want about me, but we talked about this in the pregame show. Early in this football game, there was a lack of focus. You saw errant throws, you saw some drops, you saw some penalties, and all week long, all we kept talking about and hearing about and wanting to get quotes about was about signing Odell Beckham.
We said it on the show.
And I kept saying, I'm like, damn, they doing a whole lot of talking about a guy, and we ain't hearing nothing about this football game. Like, we ain't hearing nothing about this football game. I hope you guys aren't looking past this football team, because they lost to the Lions and they're 3-6, and I'm like, and I just thought that their focus was a little bit. I mean, guys are on Twitter, campaigning to get Odell Beckham, and maybe this may be another situation where Odell's like, all right, this doesn't help your Odell Beckham situation from a standpoint of him wanting to come join your football team.
Sure.
Now maybe Jerry panics and offer him a bag that he shouldn't offer him to get him to come, because it didn't look so good. CeeDee Lamb had a breakout game, finally over 150 yards for him today. His first 100-yard game since Minnesota last year, I believe. But yet the focus just didn't seem there. You're coming off a bye, and it seemed like everyone was talking about the one or two things. It was talking about Mike McCarthy's homecoming and how he would feel, and then the recoupment of Odell Beckham. And I just felt like this team didn't have the focus throughout the week. And I'm not in the meeting rooms. I'm not on the practice field. But I know that there was a ton of emphasis every day of the week. Every single person that came to the podium to speak.
Well, to be fair to them, when I said nobody saw, I wasn't talking about the players. The players aren't openly, besides Mike on Twitter. Mike is a kid on Twitter, right? The players aren't openly talking about Odell Beckham. They're asking them questions about Odell Beckham. They're answering these questions.
Right.
I'm just talking about the talking heads, the media, the Cowboys, local media. Everyone's asking them questions about Odell Beckham. But I'll tell you,
as someone who's in the building every single day, it was a talk of the building.
Sure, I mean, you're going to talk about it in passing, but like you said, are we thinking that took focus away from their meetings, from their practices and things like that? I find that hard to believe. I truly find that hard to believe.
Again, I'm not in the locker room. I'm in the building 5 days a week, so I can just give you the vibe of what the building is. But maybe that's conversation that's happening in between meetings. Maybe it's one of those things. They just didn't seem to me to have the focus to truly be locked in and I'll say from the outside perspective, it didn't seem as if they were as locked in as they have been before. And
that could be true. There was the focus issues were there, but then you were up 28-14. All that ish don't even matter.
Right.
You're up 28-14, 4th and 9 with a chance to put this man away. What did you do? You took a shot, and you celebrate. No, I'm not saying they celebrated, but you know, in the movies, they're like, oh, everything's okay. You know, give me a hug. We're going to go home. And then you go over, you look over the window, and now Michael Myers he's not down there anymore. Or Jason's not down there anymore. Or Freddy or whoever the hell, Chucky, whoever it may be, is not down there anymore. And you gave them life. They scored a touchdown. And I looked at you, I was like, well, it was fourth quarter. I said, oh, now we're back into a ball game. Now they can run the ball. Now the pressure's back on the offense, et cetera, et cetera. So, and there's no bye week now to go into the bye week and say, okay, we got to fix this and fix that. You got to get ready to ramp up and go play Minnesota. And then right after that, 4 days later, you're back at home against the New York Giants, who are 7-2 and who are coached well and who are not losing games by management at the end. So, you know, this was an important one to get. And, you know, to me, it was supposed to start a kickstart to this second half. Yeah. I just hope it doesn't have the opposite effect, man. I'm a little concerned.
You know, and maybe this refocuses them. Maybe this is that thing where the Cowboys, they didn't look up and go, okay, let's no more Odell Beckham talk, no more talking about this. No more, now we're locked in. And sometimes it does it for you that way. You know, you're kind of riding high, and you overlook this team. I think there was some overlooking this Green Bay team. I think there was a level of overlooking this Green Bay team. There were just things throughout this game I just didn't understand from a player's perspective, from a coach's perspective. Like, you know, even sometimes, and it's the small detail things that I look back into and I go, that's a lack of focus. For Dalton Schultz on the first interception to be as shallow as he was when you know
like a yard behind CD.
That's a lack of focus. That's from a veteran guy who understands depth, who understands having the proper separation, who understands what it means to be where you're supposed to be in the red zone, and you don't do it. Then you come back and you have your best receiver have a middle of the field situation closed, and he just kind of just puts his head down and kind of, you know, lollygags through the route.
100% of the lack of focus.
That's a lack of focus. So that again goes back to that's practice stuff. That's practice stuff that's coming and showing on the football field when you have moments. When you have moments like that, when you have these lack of focus situations, we saw things throughout the game where you're just like, oof, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? All those small things, those small detail things, the minute details of winning and losing football games comes down to those small details. And trust me, you throw a red zone interception, when you should be scoring points, that touchdown wins the game. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So it's all those small things at the end of the day that when you come back and you look at it, you go, boy, we had a chance there. Boy, we had a chance there. Boy, we had a chance there. And then you add the penalties back into it. That's another lack of focus situation. You may feel that some shouldn't have been called, but all right, let's just say one or two weren't supposed to be called. But yeah, that's still, let's just say two. There's 7 penalties, 8 penalties. Those are lack of focus things. Those are things, penalties are lack of focus, lack of discipline, lack of proper technique when you make some of these penalties, whether it's a holding on the kickoff or out of bounds, whatever that thing is that, you know.
Fortunately, the CJ Goodwin one didn't cost you either. Another small underlining thing that I have to go back here and look at moving forward. We talk about the run defense a lot, but opposite of Trayvon Diggs has been a lot of inconsistency.
Houston, we have a problem
throughout this season. Now, the two Bland, because Bland, he had one of those games. Now let's see if Bland can step back and come back and bounce back. But
and you could come at me because you off air. Let me just tell you guys, off air, we have this conversation. You know,
I want Bland out there too, though. So.
we had this conversation. We both agree that we need to move on from Anthony Brown. Yes. That's we both agree. At times, I'll
say Kelvin Joseph. Let's see what he looks like.
And I go, I'm not a Kelvin Joseph fan or believer. I go DaRon Bland, and now DaRon Bland's out there, and he gives up 2 touchdowns. So there's a problem over there.
They're in DaRon's, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'll go back and look, but I feel like both of those were in the slot. They definitely were. Both of them were in the slot. And that's, listen, he's a rookie. You know, you're going to have some of these games sometimes. Let's see how you bounce back. But there's going to be a clear issue, I think, moving forward. Anthony Brown had a concussion. He may be out next week. I don't know. It'll be in concussion protocol. But this is the conversation we were having. You got Diggs, a 3-year pro. Bland's a rookie. Kelvin Joseph is a second-year pro with minimal snaps. CJ Goodwin's your corner, but he don't play corner, right? Like, there's just not a lot of – there's no look, AB, you can say what you want to say about AB. Like we talked about, he is more of a veteran leader in that locker room. And he got burnt today. He's been getting burnt a few times over the week, but at least you can be like, all right, we got a depth guy. There's no Jordan Lewis as a depth guy. So now you're searching in your depth at cornerback, and you may roll out next week DeRon Bland, Kelvin Joseph, in a very important game against Justin Jefferson.
A guy who had 10 catches for 193 yards today and a
Adam
touchdown.
Thielen.
Yeah. And unless Diggs is traveling with him, I wouldn't even line him up over there.
I mean, why would you even go over on Diggs' side?
Aaron Rodgers was like, no need for me to go. Like, cool.
I didn't see a single, and I could be wrong, but how many targets did Diggs get today?
If there was 5, I'd be surprised.
Oh, it definitely wasn't 5.
If there were 5 targets towards Diggs, I would be surprised. And why would you go over there?
Right.
Why would I race a cheetah when I can race a snail?
And I think that's the same thing that's going to happen moving forward. Next week is, especially if you're at the end of your depth chart at the cornerback position. You got 2 inexperienced guys out there. It's kind of why I wanted them to get their feet wet earlier, because I think we said this against Detroit. It might have been where it's like, hey man, let these young bucks play now, because when you go up to Green Bay against Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be looking at you. And that's exactly what he did. He targeted AB until AB face planted his way out the game with that concussion.
AB probably was like, "Yo, listen, I got a concussion. No, you don't have to. You don't have to check me. I got a concussion. Let's walk to the back."
Ain't funny, but dog. And then immediately, the second play of the following drive, it's 2nd and 22. We're going to throw a back shoulder fade, beautiful back shoulder fade to Watkins, and first down on Kelvin Joseph. And then the couple drives later, oh, hey, DeRon Bland, your turn. We're going to put you in a blender. Touchdown, 4th and 9. And then we're going to end the game on you, DeRon Bland, to Allen Lazard.
My God.
Jeez.
Aaron Rodgers, when he saw – first of all, he watched film all week. And he goes,
we said in the pregame, Mouse and House is going to be AB.
No need to go over there to mess with Trayvon Diggs. This is number 30. This is number 3, whatever number he wears now, 33, whatever. We're going to go at him. Oh, when he goes out the field, he looks over there and he goes, oh, it's a new guy, number 1. Hey, guys, he ain't played all year.
Seen this throw.
I tell this story all the time. I'm playing against D'Angelo Hall, and I line up, and he comes up and he presses me. And he looks at my number, and he looks me in the face, and he goes, "It's a run play, y'all. They ain't throwing the ball to this sorry MFer."
Oh, snap.
I'm like, this. Now, they end up throwing the ball to me anyway. I got a first down. But that's the approach. And the same thing, conversely, on the other side is when Aaron Rodgers goes, 1. I haven't seen him all week. Hey, yo, we're going at 1.
Yeah.
26, I ain't see him in the film. We're going at that dude, too. And this is what veteran quarterbacks are going to do. You think for 1 second they're not going to try to find matchups next week where you line up Justin Jefferson against Calvin Joseph or DeRon Bland, and they're a creative bunch up there in Minnesota in the way that they run.
Comes from the Rams.
So trust and believe you me, Trayvon Diggs, you might have another off day, meaning not bad off day, but an off day, nobody's coming at you, because they're going to be centered and focused on the other side of the football. Now, maybe Dan Quinn goes and say, hey, you got to shadow Justin Jefferson, because he'll go off for 200 on us. We can't let him do that.
And they'll be like, oh, Adam Thielen on Calvin Joseph. Yeah. Oh, T.J. Hockenson on okay. Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be, it's one of those games where it sucks. It's a hard pill to swallow. But you on that plane, you're going to be pissed off on the fly back home. Tomorrow you'll be pissed off, but you're going to have to bury this, unfortunately, and move on, because next week is the most important game of the season. You don't want to go on your first 2-game slide for the season, because then now you're talking about slipping out of postseason contention with other teams coming up. You're now back down in 3rd place in the NFC East. I know there's 7 spots, so you're still probably in that driver's seat. But 49ers playing? Are they playing right now? If they get this dub, now they're 5-4, 1 game behind. Just saying. Important game next week, Jesse.
You talk about play calling. Like, this is what we mean. This is what I mean when I'm talking about scheme and design.
Speaking of which, they just got a touchdown scored on them.
The Niners?
Yep.
Oh, play design and scheme and being able to see something happen all day long. The big play that gave them kind of the seal the deal, we hadn't heard from Lazard all game.
That dang RPO.
We talked about that. They went RPO because they've been able to run the football all day long. And you talk about a great play design. They RPO'd it, and they came up, and all the guys shot up, and they threw a dart right behind it. Alan Lazard runs for what I don't even know. I think he only had one catch this entire game.
And I just
set them up for
if a veteran guy in that point in time would notice what was coming then. I saw it in the Green Bay Detroit game, and we talked about the RPO, and we even went into detail. It's not read option, it's RPO.
Right.
They're going to run pass option. They're going to run it with Aaron Rodgers. They're going to run it with Aaron Jones, or they're going to pull it. They're going to throw it to Alan Lazard on the backside. And I was thinking more so on AB because he's bigger, but are smaller than Trayvon Diggs. I wonder if Deron Bland's a rookie. I wonder if a veteran is like, okay, I've seen this formation on film. I know he's either going to run it or he's going to run a slant because it's 3rd and 2 or whatever.
Right.
So I'm going to cheat inside. We saw Malcolm Butler, who got an interception on that type of play because he jumped the route. And they practiced jumping that route, by the way. So I just wonder what goes on in their heads. Or not saying it's bad on him, I'm just saying he's a rookie. He hasn't seen.
But that's the game within the game. Let's find our matchup.
He didn't run that. I don't think all game. I don't think he ran RPO all game on that.
No, so it's like, and like I said, 36-yard reception on that one. It's the game within the game, and it's like in the moment that I need to make a play. And this goes back to if you're going to go for it on 4th down, get your best 4th down play. In that moment, they said, this is our best play to win the game. They hadn't seen this all game. We hadn't run anything that looks like this all game. We've been running the football effectively, so anything that looks like we're going to run the football, they're probably going to bite up. And they sold the fake tremendously. He held the stalk block tremendously, and then he came off of it, and he threw it right there. And, I mean, that thing split open.
That's why I wanted to bang a timeout there on 4th and 4. Number one, I'm pretty sure the sideline was livid. Lamb was livid. The offense was probably a little pissed off because of the DPI. Bang the timeout, gain your composure, slow it down, and get your best 4th down play.
That's the second time we've done that this year, where we've rushed ourselves when you just, timeout.
Timeout. Against Philly.
And that to me is leadership.
Yes.
That's the part of leadership where you go, okay, guys, hey, boom, timeout. Hey, that play, they didn't call it. Cool.
Right.
Calm
what are you saving
down.
timeouts for in overtime?
Let's gather ourselves. We still have an opportunity to go and win this football game. Let's call our best play. But call a timeout. Let everyone gain their composure. Grab your guy. Say, hey, CD, let's go. We coming back to you. Or, hey, we're going to do this. Whatever it may be. But give those guys a moment to collect themselves. Everybody's still erratic. Everybody's still haywire. You think that you're rushing and you're going to beat them, but you end up rushing and beating yourselves because your guys are still a little bit frazzled from the last play. And if there's that's been the biggest knock on Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore a lot of times is game management. And game management means calling the right things, putting your team in the right places at those critical moments of the game. Because it doesn't have to be multiple times. It's the one time that you have to be right.
That's the one. That's the one. You could put all the stuff that happened in between that 28-14. It can all go away
right here.
From right there. And it didn't happen, man. It's something we'll be talking about all week on our respective shows, man, on .com, hanging with the boys. We'll be talking about it on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'll be talking about it tomorrow. I'm still gonna
Twitter
be
all
off.
night. We'll be talking about it.
I told you, I sleep better on wins. I stay up during the losses. I've been on Twitter, I'm watching games.
You're trying to argue with people and fight with people and explain to people. I'm just like,
can't do it. 140 carries, impossible.
No.
Yeah, it's impossible, man. But let them know where they can find you on Twitter, man.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Mr. 4th and Long. I'll be on Hanging with the Boys, DallasCowboys.com every day this week, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Central Time. 4th and Long with 4th and Long Cowboys on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mondays and Fridays on Believe with Jeff Kavanaugh. We'll be discussing all of this. We'll talk about the game more in depth, and then towards the end of the week, we'll get you ripe and ready to go for the Vikings game.
Yep.
Cowboys go back on the road again.
It'll be a fast turnaround. We'll get here before we know it. You can find me on Twitter at Skywalker Still, and tomorrow in the morning, 8:30 a.m. Central, A to Z Sports live, and then about 3:06, I'll be on Vosh Lombardi live over on the Volume, so check us out there. Shout out to Callahan Motor Company, and shout out to DFW Turf, the #1 artificial turf in the DFW area. Cowboys Nation, that's been our time. This has been Game Day Live, presented by Callahan Motor Company. We out here.
Peace.
zone, on the road to the Super Bowl. Every game on the schedule crucial, it take a toll. It don't matter if we at home or on the road. You try to tackle, I'll truck a sucker and take it soul. I'm staring at 4th and goal, gotta find an open hole. A linebacker just close a hole where I'm supposed to go. So now I'm thinking my centers are all pro, so I trust he can make a walk for wherever the ball go. Yeah, there's 5 seconds on the play clock. The crowd was loud, but they stopped. Now it's silent while they watch. They stand off in the red zone. All I see is red home. Watch me get this touchdown and this W and head home.